Welcome to the Save vs. Poison podcast, the podcast dedicated to gaming, general geekery, and enduring sobriety in an ever-maddening society, with your host Will and two guys that probably live under his stairs. If you're an addict, know an addict, or are just interested in exploring the outer mysteries of geekery, you're in the right place. Without further ado, let's get to the show.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to Save vs. Poison. My name is Will. I'm your host. Because of July 4th and the bing bang boom boom booms of the holiday, it was impossible to get all of my co-hosts ducks in a row. Their ducks were mangy fucks. That's what those ducks were. They were all over the place. So trying to get them scheduled to get on the podcast, very, very difficult. Very difficult. Couldn't do it. Couldn't make it happen. Everybody had family stuff or had July 4th celebration stuff. So instead, we're going to do a real quickie here today. Just a really quick episode. Nothing fancy. Just you and me. And sobriety makes three. Good job, me. That was a great joke. That was the greatest joke I've ever told. Actually, it's me and the dog in here right now. He's sitting to my left-hand side. And just looking cute. He's a cute boy. He's a good boy. If you have dogs in your life, that's a good thing. So we're just gonna get right into it. Yep. I'm sober. 3.5 years sober-ish. This last week has not been particularly difficult in terms of sobriety. Although there's always the sort of what do we do on holidays? What do we do on holidays? Who do we associate with on holidays? Who do we spend time with? And how do we navigate our sobriety on days when most everybody else is probably kicking back, relaxing, and enjoying some beverages of the alcoholic nature? If they have the ability to, moderate, which I still maintain. People that can moderate should wear capes because it's a fucking superpower as far as I'm concerned. It's something that I have not been able to do classically in my life. There was always, one more beer sounds like a great idea. Ad infinitum, that's kind of how it works. So for the most part, I kind of tend to not. I don't go out much to begin with, and on holidays it's kind of the same thing. I spend some time around some family. They all know that I'm sober. It's an interesting kind of story though. This last weekend, my in-laws came over for not this last weekend, but on Monday when my little township here in the northern Denver area, when it was doing its celebrations, they came over, I grilled, I did the whole, let's do, not a barbecue, but, just grilling meats and cheeses and stuff like that. And then, salads and whatnot. And they came over, they got together, and they brought like one beer each. One beer each. Think about that. They didn't tell me that they were bringing it, and they tried to hide it from me. My wife talked to me about it yesterday, and I recognize the impulse to do this. My wife talked to me about it yesterday, and she was like, "So, what do you think of this kind of thing happening?" I was like, "You know what? Honestly, either I don't want to know it exists, or I just want you to treat me normally. Like, I don't think that I should have to treat my alcoholism like anything other than the chronic condition that it is. It's a chronic condition. I don't stop eating sweets in front of a diabetic. I don't stop eating. Like, their diabetes is theirs to manage. It's not mine to manage. I don't have to manage my blood sugar. I don't have an issue with blood sugar. Somebody that has diabetes might have an issue with blood sugar. That's what diabetes is, right? Well, as an alcoholic, it's not your job to manage my alcoholism. And I recognize and I appreciate the sentiment that you just want to be respectful of what's going on in my life. But I think that because there's such a stigma behind alcoholism, it's really easy to kind of overcorrect in the opposite direction when what I really, really want is just to be treated like a normal person that you just don't offer alcohol to. That's it. Treat me normally. Don't offer me alcohol. Don't worry about drinking around me. It's my job to regulate my emotional state and my place in my alcoholism. You don't have to do that for me. You don't have to do that for anybody. So if you're out there and you're a friend or family member of an alcoholic who is in recovery, talk to them, ask them how they feel. It's individual. Every single alcoholic's path through alcoholism and through recovery is unique to them. It's very, very, very unique. So make sure that you're talking, that you're communicating, and that you understand that you're the alcoholic in your life. If you're going to try to help, ask them how that help should be manifested. That's it. That's it. Respectfully. So, there's that. I got invited to go to another friend of mine's place for the actual day of the 4th of July. And I hadn't intended on going because usually we have stuff on 4th of July that my wife and kiddos will go out to. And they decided that they weren't going to go do the thing that they wanted to for a couple of different reasons. But the biggest one of them was getting in and out of Boulder, which is where they would have gone, would have been absolute hell. And my wife had to work today. So made no sense for her to try to, get out there for a 9:30 show and then try to drive home, which is, 25, 30 minutes away, and get stuck in traffic, be absolutely exhausted going to work today. It just made no sense, especially since they saw fireworks the night before, which is great. So we did they did the celebration stuff, and I ended up staying home with the family and then hopped on to a game of Hunt Showdown, which is a great game. Spent several hours over a couple of different play sessions with a good friend of the show, Russ, and then eventually with co-host Ticky and Russ. So that was all well and good. That was a lot of fun. Enjoyed the crap out of that. Didn't have a great series of games personally, but the overall evening was a ton of fun. Had some interesting gameplay happen during those games though. So yeah, I find that if you're going to engage in a holiday with people that might be drinking, just make sure that you have an exit strategy and that you have people there to help you with your accountability. So like if it's a group of, acquaintances that don't know about your chronic condition of addiction, bring somebody with you that does know, or don't be afraid to address why you might not be drinking, but do so in kind of respectful manner. You don't want to be the downer. You don't want to be the reason that people are like, ooh, you don't drink because you're an alcoholic. Oh man, I don't want to associate with you. Meh. You don't want that to happen. You want to go to a place like that. When somebody says, hey, can I get you beer? No, thank you. Real respectful, real chill. No big deal, right? If you're going somewhere where you know the people that are there, though, still have somebody there with you as your accountability, and have an exit strategy. Still maintain those things. I mean, the strategies for getting through and managing those situations doesn't really change all that much. The last time that I was over at this person's place was during the Avalanche season. My friend Fireball's a really big hockey fan. I'm a really big hockey fan. We go over there, we hang out, we enjoy games, we do that kind of stuff. And they all know that I'm an alcoholic. So it's real easy for me to just navigate through that. Sometimes there's like a little bit of like friendly tension where like one or two of them who have kind of the darker end of the spectrum of senses of humor will give me a little bit of trouble. And of course, I just serve it right back at them. It's no big deal. That's interpersonal fun of having friends that have known you for 2-3 decades, right? That kind of thing is all right. So, but still, I brought my wife, my accountability, and I had an exit strategy. If I started to feel overwhelmed, it's okay for me to Irish goodbye. It's totally okay. A chuck in the arm and gone. So that's my advice for the holidays. That's what I think you should do. Came across something on Sober Twitter, which I thought was kind of interesting. I see from a few people a lot of conversation about some kind of more judgmental people in the AA sphere. That's going to happen. You're going to get people that think that their way is the right way. Unfortunately, any kind of idea or ideology can become lodged in a person, and they will start to form portions of their personality around that. This is inclusive to alcoholics in recovery. There's a certain moral weight that we often will give ourselves in recovery over people that are not in recovery, or towards people that are in recovery, but not in the ways that we might choose to be in recovery. I'm going to tell you right now, that's all bullshit. The way through your recovery has to work for you. It can't work for anybody else. Parts of it can be analogous. Parts of it can move through other people's threads in recovery, but your way through recovery probably isn't going to work the same way as somebody else's way through recovery. That's why you'll get people who say things like, well, AA didn't work for me, but Life Ring worked for me. Okay, great. That's wonderful. The whole point is, how did you stay sober? Can you stay sober? Can you do that? If you can, wonderful. Absolutely awesome. Keep doing those things. Keep exploring new things to help you keep sober. Be open to the idea that somebody's advice could be something that works for you. Be open to the idea that the advice that you give might not work for everybody that you give it to. These are all okay things. You need to be open-minded about your sobriety. I don't work a traditional 12-step program. I make a podcast, and I make a Twitch stream, and I make YouTube videos. That's what I do to reinforce my sobriety. That's my process. I think through my positions in sobriety. I talk about it with other members of my community. I post all of this stuff in ways that are, one, easily accessible, I hope, and two, are ways that can be interacted with. You've got either Twitter or Facebook or YouTube messages or any of that stuff to give me feedback on the content that I create that's a little bit more edited. And then you have the community aspect where if you have something that you want to talk about, or you have a sobriety related topic of discussion that you think is important, you can come into the Twitch stream at any point in time, say, hey, I'd like to get a little bit of time on the stream, and I'll bring you in. I'd be more than happy to. So, yeah, that's what I got for sobriety stuff right now. This week I did have a little bit of a craving. It was contextually based. I saw somebody else enjoying high quality booze, but they're like in a comedic way. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the show New Girl. There's an episode of New Girl where three of the male characters are sitting at a bar, which one of them bartends at. They're pouring really high quality whiskey amongst the three of them. Okay, great. They're also tasting it and talking about how it tastes. And they mix in a couple of funny little anecdotes, ridiculous descriptions of the alcohol itself. And then one of the characters literally goes down this like thought trail towards kind of a more depressing portion of their lives. And I was like, you know what? I kind of feel that. Like, that feels like that's how alcohol goes. Like, you have a drink and then you have another couple of drinks and you start out kind of high and then things kind of get depressing towards the end of it, right? Well, he encapsulated that in a really, really short period of time. Thank you very much, character Schmidt. But all I could think at the time was, I have some really close friends that I'll never be able to do that kind of thing with again. And I'm not talking about the going down dark, frustrating thought patterns. I'm talking more along the lines of enjoying a crafted beverage that just so happens to be alcohol. That's something that I used to enjoy that I don't get to anymore. It's kind of a frustrating thing for me, but it is what it is. The cost-benefit analysis that I do on that is, well, I don't turn into a raging asshole and treat my wife poorly, so I guess that's just something I'll have to live with, right? Right. That was the only craving that I've had in a little while. Like I said, most of my cravings these days are all contextually based, and that was one of them. That was a big one. So that's what I got for alcohol tonight. That's what? 2 topics that were things that were kind of rolling around inside my head, and then a sobriety check-in. Boom, bingo, bango, bango. So lately, in gaming news, I've been playing a game called Moonbreakers. Moonbreaker, excuse me. Moonbreaker was created by Unknown Worlds, the same developers as Subnautica. If you've never played the game Subnautica, I suggest you give it a try. It's a highly regarded game in the survival genre. It's a lot of fun, and they have put out what I consider the best tabletop simulating war game that I've played so far. And this is all first blush kind of information. This is sort of just my initial impressions of it after playing less than about 10 games right now. But I played it on stream. I've had a great time playing it on stream so far, and we're going to do that quite a bit more in the future, I think. One of the things that I really, really love about this is that it captures so many of the different and more interesting aspects of the games that I really, really enjoy playing on the tabletop. There are analogies to one of my favorite games, which is called War Machine and Hordes, put out by a company called Privateer Press. Doug Hamilton was an interview that I did at the end of season 4 that was one of my favorite interviews that I've done. He's a digital artist who works for Privateer Press. So there's a little bit of interplay with the podcast and Privateer Press. I've been playing their war game since about 2007. So almost 17 years worth of having played this particular game. It's one of my favorites. And the thing that I love about it is the baked in assumption that there are multiple ways to win a game. There are objective-based and assassination-based styles of win condition. And the objective-based stuff mixed with the assassination-based stuff creates a deeply layered game that once you take into account the vast catalog of characters and units that are available to you to play that all have interconnecting and synergizing characteristics and abilities, you get highly nuanced, very easy to learn, but very difficult to master gameplay. Well, Moonbreaker has taken that as a basis for their game and placed it in an electronic format that is absolutely fantastic. Now, there's no sponsorships for the show. You know, we don't have enough friggin' listeners to be able to, have sponsors knocking down the door, except for Raid Shadow Legends, which we're not going to get sponsorships from Raid Shadow Legends. That game is garbage. That's some bullshit. That's some bullshit gaming right there, in my opinion. So anti-sponsorship right there. They're probably going to start charging me money for having said that. Moonbreaker, though, takes the idea of the central figure or captain, the crew, which is the rest of your list, and how those things synergize with each other, and places it in a electronic format without taking any of the character away from playing with a tactile game. Every one of the characters is a miniature in a three-dimensional computer-generated space. So when I show you one of my minifigs that I've painted, and I show you one of the characters from Moonbreaker, they look almost exactly the same as far as type. Now, the stylization is a little bit different. This is a very, very cartoony game that, as far as an aesthetic, I really, really enjoy. But each one of the characters is voice acted. Every single one of them is voice acted, and not minorly voice acted, but fully fleshed out voice acted with multiple different reactions to on-board states, which is great. And then each one has flair and flavor as far as how they do the things that they do that are a lot of fun. The cocky characters, when they do something on the field, they sound cocky. The one character that's Arya, who is a sniper character, she's got a very, very nerd girl, introvert style sense of humor, and it shows on or in the game, on the tabletop, the virtual tabletop. So it's a turn-based game that combines the synergies that I love with a resource mechanic that I really enjoy, an assassination style win condition, an objective based win condition. Like, it's got all of the check marks for something that I would enjoy in a miniature game. And it just so happens that it's so easily accessible because it's $20 on Steam and has a 1v1 style of PvP playmanship, which means that the player pool can be necessarily small if it has to be, and you can still have really, really interesting games played without having to worry about a big, gigantic player base being necessary to enjoy games. Like, I can't play Hell Let Loose without 50 other players on the other team. But for something like this, one other player, we got ourselves a game, baby. The other thing that I find fascinating about this is that they built into the game painting. They built into the game miniature painting. If you see a character that you love the sculpt of, but you don't like the paint scheme, you can go into the paint scheme editor, pull up a blank template of that model, and paint it. And the way that they did that was by instituting really robust painting mechanisms into the game. When you take your model and you're like, listen, I'm worried that if I try to paint the eye, this whole area will get painted as well. Well, provided that you click on just the eye while you're painting, that's the only thing that's going to get any shading on it, any color on it. It's amazing. Each one of the pieces of the model is an asset in and of itself. So when you click on that asset, you can paint just that asset. It's phenomenal. They also have different brush styles, different media styles. So you can regular paintbrush, you can dry brush, you can stipple, you can airbrush, you can wash, you can do all of these things within this game. And I played around with that for about 20 minutes on stream and had a great time doing it. And it's funny because like even the audience was like, look at what Will's doing. He's, futzing around with making this ridiculous and weird looking paint scheme. I had one guy comment, every single time you lose a match, you need to paint a model in Ronald McDonald's color scheme. So it's, white, red, and yellow, which is going to look, I don't know, could look good. White, red, and yellow. It's enough contrast there that I think that actually could be a paint scheme. Maybe. We'll see. Looks like I have at least 3 models I got to paint that way. So learning how to paint with it, learning how to explore it, and learning how to enjoy the entirety of this game is going to be great. I look forward to putting another show together tonight on Wednesday night to get some more Moonbreaker played. So that's what I've been mostly doing. I've been playing a little bit of Ghost Recon Wildlands, which is basically you as a special agent being dropped into the jungles of Bogota to near Bogota, Colombia, to take down a fictional drug warlord. Fun stuff, right? No politics involved with that at all. None at all. So I've been enjoying that, but that's been a little bit less on my radar screen as the Moonbreaker thing, and then playing a little bit more Hunt lately has been taking up the majority of my gaming time. That's basically all I've got for this week's show. We'll have the rest of the cast and crew back to get my other 2 co-hosts back next week for a fully fleshed out, full hour-long episode of the podcast. For this week, I just wanted to pop in, give an update, talk a little bit about two or three subjects, and then a little bit about Moonbreaker. It's on Steam. It's on sale. Go get it. Find us in the world. Find us on Twitch. Find us on YouTube. Go do the things. Become our friend. And let's get some gaming going. Baby. It's going to be great. Can't thank you all enough for another listen. We just passed, I think, 4,300 downloads and listens. So that's absolutely heartwarming. We got a couple of new folks following us over on Twitch, and we are trying to grow the YouTube thing. So if you're listening to this right now, you're listening to it later, please like, subscribe, come find us. Save versus Poison on Twitch, Save versus Poison on YouTube. Every single set of eyes that we get on this is one more person that possibly has another outlet for addiction or gaming, and then can get a little bit of support in addition to all the other things that they hopefully are doing to keep themselves sober. Can't thank you enough. Once again, take care of yourselves, and as always, warm, creamy regards, everybody. You all take care. Good night.
You've just listened to another episode of the Save vs. Poison podcast. If you liked what you heard, please follow us, like, and subscribe on Twitter at @VS_save, on Facebook at the Save vs. Poison podcast, and streaming live on Twitch at twitch.tv/SVP podcast. Thanks so much for joining us, and stay safe, everyone.